live. We're live. Hello, folks. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Comic Shop Talk Live. Brought to you by Black Hat Comics and Rockin' Milpitas, your one-stop shop for all things superhero. Shop online at black-cat-comics.com. We're keeping you connected to the comic book community. I'm Mark.
I'm Francie.
And we have another fun episode for you. Going to be talking some independent comics today. And always a little new this week books. It's an interactive show. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions, comments, concerns, queries, and we'll address those to the best of our ability. We want to know what you're reading, what you're looking forward to reading, what's at the top of the stack.
Top of the stack.
And we always like to start the show with a little comic shop news. Comic shop news. Here in our little corner of the world, the news this week is independent comics. Dark Horse, Image, IDW, Dynamite, the big guns that aren't the big two. That's what we're talking all about this week. That's our big sale. All of those things from those publishers, 25% off at black-cat-comics.com all weekend. Mm-hmm. That's the big news. The other news, do you want to tell them what we're doing tomorrow? Or is that a project under wraps?
Oh, I'm like, what are you talking about tomorrow? It's Valentine's Day. Tomorrow, we got selected for the Milpitas Small Business video program. So we've got a professional videographer coming to do a commercial tomorrow in the shop. So that'll be fun.
That will be fun. We're super excited about that. Appreciate that from the folks of the city of Milpitas. We did a commercial, many moons ago, back when I had natural hair color and hair, maybe. That was a lot of fun. That ran on Cartoon Network, like I say, many years ago. Some of our old timers might remember that.
Hang on, I'm getting some difficulties, so let's try that again.
Uh-oh.
They can hear us. So.
Okay. Over here on the YouTubes, we're having some Facebook difficulties.
The YouTubes.
Bear with us just a second. But like I say, we did a commercial back on Cartoon Network, and that was really fun. I think you can still find it somewhere on the website. We've got it posted up there. But anywho, we're really excited to do a new commercial in the new location, well, semi-new location, and get that out to the world. So that'll be super fun. That's exciting. And I guess the last little bit of comic shop news is Black Cat Chronicles moving right along. Just a few weeks away from the ship date. A lot of you folks have been, of course, already picked up your copy through the Kickstarter thing. A lot of folks have picked up their copy from black-cat-publishing.com. We're super excited about it. A lot of you are super excited about it. So that's a big part of what we're talking about.
Yes, you keep talking. I'm
comic shop news.
Working on things.
So other than that, of course, we could go into our weekly spiel about WandaVision. I could spend an hour every week talking about WandaVision, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about comics. There's lots of folks talking about TV, and we're back.
Try again over here, Facebook.
So to catch you guys up super fast, we're recording a commercial tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. We'll give you all the info on where you can find that and all that sort of thing. And the Black Hat Chronicles update. Things moving right along, just a few weeks away. You're going to get that in your hands, and you're going to be super stoked about it.
The inks are gorgeous.
The inks are gorgeous. Everything about it. The art's great. The story is exciting.
Thank you.
It's going to be really great. We're excited about it. We know you're excited about it.
Yeah. Let us know on Facebook if there's sound. So give us a
howdy, a heads up if you can hear me. Brother, can you hear me? There's someone. All right.
Let us know if there's sound over there on Facebook.
All right. So that's comic shop news. As we said, going to talk a little independent comics today. Then we'll talk a little some new this week. In my case, going to mix it up. Going to talk about some new this week independent comics. Good times.
They prefer to be called independent.
Independent. On Firefly, they're called independents. So the independents, the big guns, the ones we consider. As I said, the big publishers that aren't Marvel or DC, being Dark Horse, Image, IDW, Dynamite. There's a few others that we threw into the sale.
AWA, Aftershock.
The small press folks will be on sale next weekend, and then we wrap it up the last weekend with the big DC sale, just to keep you informed. So the other guys, I'm What's that?
Technical difficulties. I can't tell if I'm getting comments over here or not.
I'm always in the, okay, every Wednesday I do a live video where I show everybody the books that are out that week. And I show you some Marvel, some DC. I show you at least something
Cool,
from
thanks.
every publisher. And I say a lot of the same things in these videos because I'm always encouraging folks to branch out. If you love comics, I always say there's 1,000 reasons people buy comics. You love that one character, that one TV show, that one thing, so you buy that one comic. Hey, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you love comics, then you owe it to yourself to always be on the lookout for a new character, a new publisher, a new artist, a new writer. We all got turned on into this by somebody. When I was a kid, it was George Perez or John Byrne, or that comic there's that comic that grabbed
Gaiman,
you.
Preacher.
There you go.
Ennis.
Everybody has that thing. You see comics, you know about comics, especially now in the movies and everything, you know about all this stuff. But it's got to be the comic that grabs you, an artist, a writer that grabs you and makes you a comic book person. And so when you find that person, there are other creators out there that you would like just as much if you knew who they were. So, like I say, in the weekly video, I make a big push about Dark Horse and Image and Dynamite and IDW and all these guys because they all do great books. Every publisher has a book that you would like and you would read if you knew about that book. So I like to give those books exposure. It's a big part of why we do this sale is to give those publishers and these books that exposure. So we're going to talk about some of those books today.
And some publishers are better in certain genres than other. So if you like me and you like the horror, you might gravitate towards someone like, Dark Horse. Image has some flavors of horror within it.
Image does a little bit of everything.
AWA and Aftershock do a lot of sci-fi and horror kind of mixed and mystery and true crime kind of stuff too. The smaller press kind of, for the most part, Image is kind of the exception. For the most part, stay away from the superheroes. So it's more kind of genre story based versus like a character that you know and love, with the exception of, drum roll please, this guy. Who doesn't love some Hellboy? Hellboy. So him and Spawn are like probably the most key iconic characters, Walking Dead, in the Image Dark Horse universe. Dynamite's got Vampirella, Red Sonja, Green Hornet. Okay. And a couple others. And IDW's got all the Transformers licenses and all the Marvel Kids stuff. So
all the G.I. Joe and Transformers. They do all the 80s stuff. So
there's a lot of great reading in the next tiered level of publishers beyond the big two. So make sure you guys explore and expand and check them out.
And two things I would like to tap into with that. One is the ever-growing demand and audience for non-superhero stuff. I am the total superhero junkie. I am the least common denominator of comic book people. I love the capes. And outside of much science fiction, frankly, I don't read much else. But for those of you who read books, for those of you who like all kinds of stuff, for those of you who like, as you say, genre fiction, Westerns, as I said, sci-fi, horror, whatever that might be. Again, all these other publishers have stuff you want to see. But the thing I would add to that, and my man Kent reminded me of this the other day, something I encourage every single person that ever sees me or listens to me to do, is somebody who likes to read. Somebody that likes books or that likes genre films. Or just to say, everybody knows somebody that's not reading a comic. And a comic they would like, get that comic in their hands. My man Kent picks up all kinds of comics for people at work and different folks because they get into talking about things. They mention something that they like, and so he gets them a comic about that, and that grows comics. It grows the fandom. It only helps, and it builds bonds of friendship and great stuff. So
and there's some really great kind of gateway drug comics that people introduce themselves to first via us, and then on to their friends and family. So like Monstrous, that book just sells, off. We can't keep them on the shelves. We can't keep them in stock. Monstrous, so that's more of a fantasy with some horror wrapped into it and kind of a manga, potato, you get me, style art. And it's really well written. It's beautiful world building by some very Eisner award-winning talented artists and writers. And Saga is another one that gets people started in reading comics. I don't know much about it. Do you have?
It's Romeo and Juliet in space.
There you go.
That's the shortest thing I've been told.
Easy.
It's lovers who shouldn't be lovers, and hijinks ensue.
Hijinks ensue. Anything Hellboy. If you guys don't know Hellboy, it's basically X-Files, except the Mulder and Scully is this huge red dude who all he does is go with his right hand of doom and smash things, kind of like the Hulk, but more in a paranormal bent, which I love. So yeah, there's a lot of really great kind of gateway drugs into comics that are not, your stereotypical superhero capes and cowl, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to get somebody into it that's not really into Batman, Superman, X-Men, then there's a ton of other stuff out there. Just something for everybody, really. Video
game, comics,
it's another one.
Licensed property stuff, and the vast majority of this stuff comes from the publishers that aren't Marvel and DC. Obviously, Marvel and DC dabble in all of that, but the other publishers like to do that because it gives them a foot in the door in the market outside of the superhero places.
So, what was your gateway drug into comics? What got you guys started, and what do you like to share with others that you're trying to kind of get into the fold of comicdom?
And what's your favorite non-Marvel DC publisher? Your favorite non-Marvel DC title?
Favorite? That's hard.
It is hard because I can only break it down by publisher. I have my favorite Image book, and even that I can't really say. Hellboy is clearly my favorite Dark Horse book, but I have lots of favorite Dark Horse books. And on and on. And as I say, every publisher has a book that you would like if you checked them all out. So we've got a few examples of those. As you said, you mentioned Hellboy.
Yes.
There are a couple of ways of getting actually multiple ways. Again, if you watch my Wednesday video, I talk up Mike Mignola every opportunity I get. So let's talk about ongoing comics, and let's talk about collections. This beauty right here is Hellboy Omnibus Volume 1. This is obviously where you want to start. And it's my opportunity. I almost forgot.
Destruction.
It's my chance to mention John Byrne.
Oh my God, there it is.
It's the Mike Mignola John Byrne team up in the first couple issues in the first series, and then Mignola's all on his own. So anyway, if you love the movie, or if you don't know anything about Hellboy, if you're just looking for something, one of the most awesome reads you'll ever find, start with Hellboy Omnibus Volume 1. You will definitely continue. If you like the art, I should always say, because art is always so subjective, if you love the art like everybody does, then you'll read the other volumes.
Well, and then the thing that I love about Hellboy, too, is that it's really well researched. You wouldn't think so. You think it's just total fiction, total nonsense. But Mike Mignola and team are real experts in history, like the whole early weird paranormal stuff that the Nazis did. That's actually all true. They were hunting for the Ark of the Covenant. They were hunting for all of these relics that would give them magical powers to, overthrow and take over the whole entire world. So there's a lot of truth to it. And a lot of the mythos he grabs from actual, legends and different cultures, Baba Yaga. Amazingly well kind of woven in, true facts with true, real legends, and told and drawn in a great way. So all things Hellboy.
So there's the trades. There's the Hellboy and the BPRD is the current periodical. Always recommending the periodicals because that's how comics are meant to be read. And then there's a bunch of spinoffs. My favorite is the BPRD. It's another big chunky. This is Plague of Frogs. And this is where the BPRD starts. I won't go all into it. You got to read Hellboy Volume 1 to understand.
It's like X-Files without Mulder and Scully. So it's got all the paranormal stuff, and the team minus Hellboy.
Zabe Sapien and the rest of the gang, which brings me to the other ones. There's Abe Sapien books. There's Lobster Johnson books. On and on and on and on and on and on. Hellboy, my favorite Dark Horse thing.
So I want to get back to Abraham. One of the big ones for him is Something Is Killing the Children. Yeah, that's great. That's been a good seller for us too.
That's Boom Studios. I think Boom is next week.
Next week it'll be on sale.
So that's Something Is Killing the Children, and Once in Future is the other huge Boom
book.
Studios thing.
And then Phil is saying,
I said he started with Stillwater, and now
nice.
he got Maniac in New York. That's right up your alley.
Wasn't that good? That's creepy.
Where does one look up these other books? Okay, that's a great question, Phil, and I'm gonna say another one of my many dozens of tangents. There are lots of great websites, lots of great comic news sites, lots of information out there about comics. I always suggest avoiding all of them and sticking to publisher sites. Go to publisher sites. That's another big reason why we do the publisher sale, because I like to spotlight the companies, because it is the publisher that has an umbrella. It is, as you say, it's a publisher that determines what kind of stuff they do, and if you like that stuff, you should track down that publisher. If you like everything under the sun, go to Image. So go to the publisher site, start there, because what you get there is the fact. What you get there is opinion free. Obviously, it's a little snazzed up to suck you in, but they'll show you art, they'll give you the story explanation, they'll tell you when the book comes out, and that's what you need to know so you can decide for yourself. My problem with all the other sites is that they tell you what to like, they tell you what to not like, they give you your opinion before you're allowed to form it. And comics are so subjective that it shouldn't work that way.
That's a good point.
Comic Shop or Comic Book Resources is a great site. There's lots of those sites, but start with the publisher sites. Get the information on the book so you can decide. Then find those other sites, as I say, like Comic Book Resources, like these other comic news sites. Bleeding Cool. Find the one that has reporters that you like, that has stories that you like. But don't let any site or any comic book guy or anybody tell you what you like.
Right.
I tell you what I like, I tell you what I don't like, and I tell you why. And then if you like books that I like, you can be like, oh, I'll check that out. If you think to yourself, I never like the stuff Kazi likes, I like the stuff Francie likes, that's fine. But like I say, start with the publisher sites, get the raw info on the book, then get out there on the internet and see what everybody's talking about. And for God's sake, stay away from the speculator sites. That stuff, it's not factual. Sorry.
So Daniel's mentioning that he loves Image Book. Getting it together. I never thought I'd be getting hooked on a romance comic, but it's a contemporary romance comic set in San Francisco. Just people navigating love and trying to keep their punk band together. Ooh, I love it. It sounds a bit autobiographical.
That does sound cool. And hey, let me say, since it's Valentine's Day weekend, and one of my books this week is going to be Love is a Battlefield, ain't nothing wrong with romance comics. Let me tell you two things.
Any story that's well done, doesn't matter what the genre is. As long as it's a well-written story, I'm all for it. That's
200% factual. And let me tell you two things about romance comics. One, they kept comics alive in the 50s. Without romance comics, comics would have died in the 1950s. That's an absolute fact.
Comics code.
And don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise. Number two, the greatest creators of all time have a huge catalog of romance titles. Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, on. All the greats that you know from the Golden and Silver Age have a huge catalog of romance comics, and they're awesome. So romance comics are a very important part of the genre.
Do you want to put Julie's?
Yes, we've got to pick up in a couple of minutes. So I'll leave that to you. I'll be right back.
So one of my favorite, I have to say, I lean probably more out of the ones that we're looking at this week, which is 6 different publishers. I kind of lean more towards Dark Horse. It seems like I love their horror bent, their true history stuff. The much like Maniac of New York, you probably like a lot of stuff in Dark Horse's world, Phil. There's the Matahari, which is really well done. Anthony Bourdain's books of Hungry Ghosts, I think was 4 issues. That was really well done. That was a retelling of Japanese horror stories based around food, which is really cool. Karen Berger, who is from DC Vertigo, who started DC Vertigo, is now doing, Berger Books. Thank you.
Mata Hari.
Doing something called Berger Books. So it's like another kind of sub-label underneath Dark Horse, which is kind of got the same. It's not really like DC Vertigo, but it's really kind of cultivated by Karen. So if you like any of the DC Vertigo stuff, you should definitely check out some of the Berger Books under the Dark Horse imprint. So that was good.
Incognito was really good.
Oh yeah, that
I
was
did
good.
2 of those, and that was really good.
Yeah, good stuff.
Dark Horse.
They're also the ones that are reprinting all the Neil Gaiman short stories into comics. So
I also always like to do a little history. The industry owes a lot to Dark Horse Comics. Dark Horse is the first third publisher. Well, that's hard to say. Since the Silver Age, Dark Horse is the first third publisher. Back in the day, Archie was a major publisher. Gold Key was a major publisher. But as Archie became, let's say, more specifically genred, and Gold Key fell off, all these other things fell off, and the rise of Marvel and DC, for the majority of time, there was only Marvel and DC. 1989, Mark Richardson.
Yes, that's right.
Somebody started Dark Horse Comics.
Mike
Richardson, thank you. I should know that off the top of my head. So, and he broke through doing what Gold Key had done to compete back in the day, which was licensed property stuff. Star Wars, Alien, Predator, RoboCop, Terminator, Conan. He got a hold of as many licensed property things as he could, because that was a whole aspect of comics that had disappeared.
Yeah.
And Marvel had let all the licenses lapse, and everybody had let all of that go. And Dark Horse got all of that. They got great artists, great writers, guys like Walt Simonson and Frank Miller, and they did great books, and exploded on the scene and made comics viable, made non-superhero comics popular, made independent comics a real thing. I think it can't be understated that as prolific as indie comics were all through the 70s and 80s, they've always been around, but there was never a big publisher to give us something besides Marvel and DC until Dark Horse came along. And that opened the door for Image and for all these other things that we're talking about. I loved CrossGen. And Dark Horse resuscitated Star Wars. It's another thing that I always emphasize, because nobody remembers. Star Wars was dead until Dark Horse released Dark Empire. I mean, Marvel didn't care about the license. They let it go, and Lucas couldn't find anyone to give the license to. So Dark Horse picked it up. They did Dark Empire. Dark Empire was huge. It's still a great book. There was a toy line and all kinds of things. So Dark Horse resuscitated Star Wars, Alien, Predator. Nobody would care about these things anymore if Dark Horse hadn't kept it alive, and they don't get enough credit for that. Yeah. So absorb that, spread the word.
Dark Horse is awesome.
It's well, and they made movies and all kinds of things. Like I say, Dark Horse is easily, maybe not so much at the moment, because Image has really grown and expanded over the years. But for the longest time, Dark Horse was number 3, was a solid number 3. And honestly, Image wouldn't want to admit they were the number 3. Image likes you to think they're one of the little guys, but they're not. So anyway, I like to give those spiels, because again, Dark Horse deserves that credit, and they don't get acknowledged for that.
So Allie, forgive me if I pronounce that wrong, is asking how they can get free comics from DC. If we knew, we don't get free comics from DC. So here's the solution for you. The last weekend of February, so what is that, 28th or 27th, 28th, I think, all of our DC stuff's going to be 25% off. If you click on the DC collection on our online store and then filter it by dollar books, you'll basically can get some comics for like 75 cents. So you can try to, get some cheap comics, but free DC comics. We used to get, back in the day, they would send us like promo copies, Marvel and DC, and I think Image too, would send us like 6 or something.
A smattering books, of the following week's books. For
free, so that we can read them ahead of time, so that when Wednesday came around, we can actually talk intelligently about the books. And try to help sell them, but they stopped doing that a while ago. So we don't, and we had to pay for those anyway.
Yeah, we did. And speak for yourself. I never speak intelligently. Of course, there's the whole digital thing, the DC Universe, whatever their new digital.
Yeah.
You can subscribe to that, and on their website, they on that
killed that though.
Well, no, they've just created a different one. That's why I don't know the name of it anymore.
I can't keep up.
But DC has their own digital comic streaming thing. So I don't know what the subscription fee is, but I would imagine it's close to free. And
of course, there's Free Comic Book Day, but it looks like that's going to get pushed out to August for this year. It's usually the first Saturday of May. So we kind of limped along with it last year. And it looks like it's going to be May. So DC gives out typically 2 free comics that they produce specially for that day, either reprints of old stuff or brand new material. So keep an eye out for Free Comic Book Day. That's another option.
And of course, it's your local library. Your local library has graphic novels by DC Comics that you can read for free. At least these days, any library worth its salt has that's open has a decent selection of DC graphic novels.
CC.
So I wanted to show a few of things this week that are examples of the kinds of things we're talking about.
Okay.
Since you showed Norse mythology, and we've already talked about Hellboy, that's our dark horse stuff.
Yeah.
Norse mythology was new this week.
You're welcome.
That's an awesome book. Radiant Black is a first issue from Image Comics that's out this week.
It's good. I was reading the first couple pages and then I had to get back to work, but I like what I was reading.
There are subscribers here in my store, and I'm sure in every store, that have all first issue Image books on their list. And there's a couple reasons for this. One, of course, is the collectability and all that sort of thing. Image first issues are always hot. But more specifically, it's because they come and go really fast. And they do such a range of things that folks want to try out the first issues and see if they want to keep reading that book. It's more often than not, they like it and want to keep reading it, I guess is the best way to explain it. And that's a great thing to do with Image. In the Wednesday videos, I always encourage folks to grab these first issues, give them a try. If you don't like it, great. But if you do like it, then you got turned on to a new title and you don't have to pay $50 for a first printing of the first issue. And they do a ton of books. And a lot of Image books get a lot of press, but a lot of Image books get no press at all. And so, like I say, I just like to throw them out there that it's always a good idea to try out a first issue. I mean, it's always a good idea to try out any first issue. If you like the art, you like the story, of course. But Image has a really good track record for things. And so, like I say, here's your one for this week, Radiant Black. That's another good one.
Second printing of Haha, #1. So creepy and crazy and bloody and weird, and I don't know what I can show you, but it's a clown story.
That's a good
and
page.
Yeah, it is a good page.
Who doesn't love creepy clowns?
I mean, come on. So really great, creepy, scary stuff.
Again, a great first issue that's already gone to a second printing and already waiting on the third printing.
Sold out like that.
The first printings are already probably money. While we're on the subject of Image, I'm going to bust out another graphic novel and show you one of my favorite Image titles. Much like Hellboy, in any conversation about Image, I like to bring up Black Science.
And your favorite guy.
Is that Rick Remender?
It is.
Yes, love me some Rick Remender. He's got another book called Low. And I just loved Black Science. The series has ended. It ran like 10 trade paperbacks, which of course is a bit of a commitment, but like a lot of things, if you read the first one, it'll suck you in. It's really cool, dark science fiction. It's kind of like a little bit Fantastic Four, a little bit Lost in Space, a little bit Twilight Zone. And I just really enjoyed the heck out of it. Again, I read a lot of superhero stuff. I read a lot. You all know I read Avengers and Captain America, and my dance card is full with Marvel and DC books. But again, I like to try out Image first issues. I like to try out any science fiction book first issue. I picked up Black Science #1. It totally sucked me in. I read the whole series. So again, any opportunity I get to pitch some Black Science. And while we're on the subject, a couple of things I'd like to say about Image and in regards to our sale this weekend. Almost every Image first volume trade paperback is discounted as $9.99.
Smart.
Because they do the Image First program where they sell you the first issue for $1, and so they know you've already read the first issue, so they discount the trades. And so when we do a cool sale like 25% off, that makes a cheap book even cheaper. Makes it $7.50. And we've got a whole mess of Image First volumes on the site that you can pick up for $7.50, as well as those Image First that you can pick up for 75 cents. And the whole idea is because they're very confident that if you read the first one, you'll keep reading them. And I'm pretty darn sure that with Black Science, as with anything Rick Remender, that will be true. He really knows comics. He knows what you want. And I just love that book. So
synopsis.
Oh, really quick?
Yeah.
As I say, it's kind of Fantastic Four, Lost in Space. So basically, in the future, humanity is mining other planets for resources. We've tapped Earth out. Earth has no more resources, so we're out there in space mining other planets for resources, and that's really expensive. So this guy comes up with a dimension jumping device. Why go out into space when you can just hop over a dimension and mine another Earth? And so he designs this machine, and the plan was that he was just going to go to the next dimension over and ask nicely if we could borrow some coal and gold and oil. And it's such a big deal, and he's such a genius that he takes his family along for the adventure, and it's this whole big thing, and God bless America. Well, instead of going to the next dimension over, he and somebody has messed with his gizmo, and he and his family end up on the dimension way over here, which is this horrible, horrible hell Earth. And the machine is broken when he gets there, so they can't leave. Nice. and that's where you are at the end of the first arc. Bit of a spoiler, but I mean, come on. So awesome. So the dude's there with his family on some horrible hell world. He's got to figure out, how's he going to fix his machine? How's he going to get the hell out of here? How's he going to get back to his original Earth? And hijinks ensue.
Nice.
Like all good science fiction, you really don't know what the heck is going to happen, and then by the time you get to the end, boy, have you been on a ride. So
nice.
Black Science, Rick Remender, can't say enough about all that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Image has 1,000 books. Mm-hmm. Whatever genre you like, whatever sort of cool, creepy, not creepy thing you might be into, Image has the book for that. Mm-hmm. So go to imagecomics.com, go to New This Week, and peruse, because they do great stuff.
Are you going to click on our store and then filter by Image Comics on the left?
There you go.
So IDW, moving
on.
Over. Yeah.
Sure.
So Lock and Key is doing a crossover with Sandman from DC Comics. So Neil Gaiman's Sandman meets the whole team and universe from Lock and Key by Joe Hill. So it's a IDW labeled book. So we've got the #1 out there. This is a prequel. There's not really much going on just yet. It just kind of gives you the history of the Keys and the family that takes a look at and are the guardians of the Keys, I should say. And so it's a really great intro if you've never read any Lock and Key. It's a great book by the legendary horror writer, son of Stephen King, Mr. Joe Hill.
Hugely popular. I think we have the first volume trade up on the site too.
We probably do. Yeah, and all the Hill House comics were amazing from DC.
Yes.
Oh, they were so good.
Yeah, I hope they announce the second run. That Lock and Key, Sandman, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Daniel, Department of Truth for any horror fans. That's right. Every issue has been at the top of my stack. I can't wait for the first trade. Nice. Yes. Department of Truth, again, wacky X-Files kind of stuff, where if all of our collective conspiracy theories, if enough people believe the same thing, then that thing becomes our reality. So a quick example, if enough people really believed that the Earth was flat, then the Earth actually changed and became flat. And so there's kind of this like paranormal team that goes out and tries to understand the conspiracy folks and try to stop them before it gets into this mass population. It's great. It's terrifying. a little too on the nose on some of the stories, but it's really well written and it's a creepy art too. So good recommendation, Daniel.
And it's to jump back to the image thing really quick. Another thing they do really well in Department H is a great example is genre fusion. Most things that Image does is kind of two things. Like East of West was horror western. Black Science is horror science fiction. You mentioned romance comics earlier, and they do a little like Snot Girl is sort of a romance humor book.
Yeah.
And Department H is kind of a conspiracy crime noir horror book.
Paper Girls.
And they, like I say, they do a neat
Bitch
job
Planet.
of mixing things in like just the perfect amount, and that's a lot of fun.
Yep.
I'm glad you mentioned Lock and Key, because as we said earlier with IDW, I've got a couple of their the 80s greatness. If you're 100 years old like me, you love 80s stuff. And if you're not 100 years old like me, I would still say that they
85.
If you're only like 70, then these are great properties. Okay, let me show you a little turtle. Okay, again, these are both new this week. G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. This is a great jump-in issue because Untold Tales. Larry Hama, all-time great writer Larry Hama, was the guy who started this over at Marvel back in the 80s, 277 issues ago. This is number 278. So Marvel did it for a long time. When IDW got the license, of course, they did their own thing. And then they thought, hey, wait, let's grab Larry Hama and let's just start that run where he left it off 25 years ago. And that's what they did, and it's awesome. Again, cool. Sort of a great mix, as G.I. Joe has always been. It's a little bit war comic, a little bit superhero, a little bit crime mystery, cool stuff.
A little bit country.
A little bit country, a little bit rock and roll. And so if you love G.I. Joe back in the day, if you don't know anything about G.I. Joe this week, it's a great issue to jump in on. And like we've been saying, let me show you a little art. Yeah, like I say, like G.I. Joe. Cool,
got that cartoon feel.
Cool vehicles, yeah, kind of like a almost animation kind of thing. Anyway, so that's fun, and G.I. Joe has always been a great premise for comics. The Turtles I want to mention because they're getting all kinds of buzz these days. You probably heard about Last Ronin. You probably grabbed a first, second, or third printing of Last Ronin, a sort of Frank Miller-esque throwback to the original Turtle stuff. But the Turtles are as awesome as they've always been. The core ongoing title is a little bit, I don't want to say similar to Last Ronin, but it's in the vein of a mainstream regular superhero comic. It is still in the vein of the original title. So not dark and heavy, but it's not light and fluffy either. It's the Turtles. They're superheroes. They live in a sewer. They're having adventures. It's a really solid book. If you were ever a Turtles fan, and you're reading this, you're probably digging it. You probably agree that it's as exciting and fun as the Turtles have been in a long time. And this is issue 114. So IDW's had the license for a long time. This run has been going for a long time. And I mention it because mostly because I got a bunch of customers who buy this book, read it religiously, and have for years and years and years. So if you ever loved the Turtles, you should probably be reading this. If you just are mildly curious about the Turtles, pick up the new issue this week. Pick up that reprint of Last Ronin and get ready for Last Ronin #2 next week. Can't say enough about the mighty TMNT. And again, they do Turtles, they do G.I. Joe, they do Transformers. And these are hardcore fan bases. These are fan bases that go back a long time. These are fan bases that don't just take anything you give them. So IDW must be doing a great job to keep those bases happy.
One of my other favorites is a new label called Aftershock. And we got the editor-in-chief, Mike Martz, to do one of these with us about, 6 months ago. So you can check that out on our YouTube channel. And I really love what kind of stuff they're putting out. Really good quality art and story. So Miskatonic is one of my new favorites. So it's a FBI 1920-ish detective investigating H.P. Lovecraft creature-like murders on the East Coast. So who doesn't want that? And then Dark Arc is just, and then Animosity they do as well. Dark Arc is think of the flood. So Noah's flood, the flood where
Kind of his.
Noah's Ark takes off and takes, two of every animal to safety. Well, the devil's like, hey man, I want a piece of that. So the devil's got his own ark that's run by a wizard, and two of every kind of demon and vampire and creatures of the night. And so it's what happens on that ark during the flood, and it is fascinating. And then this series is the second series. It's after the flood. So what happens once they actually land? So great stuff, mind blowing. Colin Bunn has been just kicking it. He's just been,
as he does. Colin Bunn does like 18 books for like every publisher. I really don't know how he does it and how he maintains the quality and the originality that he does, but it's awesome. Love Dark Ark, and you mentioned Animosity. Animosity is again sort of a dark science fiction thing where basically all the animals become sentient. And self-aware, and so of course they are a little upset with humans and what we've done to them and done to the world, and they begin to exact revenge. It's really, at the end of the day, it's the story of a girl and her dog, but hijinks ensue, and again, Aftershock is a really great kind of new on the scene publisher, because they're doing really, really great work in areas that aren't dominated by other publishers at the moment.
And AWA has been doing some really great stuff too. Resistance.
Year Zero.
JMS, right?
Yeah, J. Michael Straczynski.
Did Resistance, and it's a little too on the nose. Like, it's exactly the pandemic, but he wrote it like a year ahead of time. It's kind of crazy that he was prophetic like that. And Year Zero, you mentioned, Old Haunts, Hotel.
Ooh, Hotel was good.
Super creepy.
Please do a sequel to Hotel, guys.
Yeah, and the one that I love, but I can't remember the name, about the woman who finds this trucker serial killer ring. So this is actually kind of true, which is even more horrific. She uncovers this ring of sexual predators that are truck drivers, and they meet at these truck stops. I hope there's no kids listening to this at these truck stops. And she goes in and kicks some serious ass and makes sure that they don't mess around anymore at that point. So great stuff from AWA, Artists Writers Association.
Yeah, and they've got some top talent over there.
Yeah, really do. Yeah, really do. Good stuff.
Oh, which brings me, can I switch gears, go to the next one?
Yeah.
Brings me to Dynamite. This is one of the Dynamite books for the week, Red Sonja, The Superpowers. And a little bit like Vampirella, Dark Powers, I thought this was a great book to mention for a couple of reasons. One, again, it's new this week. Always encourage you folks to start with whatever's new, and then either go back if you want to catch up, or just keep going forward. But this is also a great mix of things. One thing I'm always talking about in the videos, and we've already mentioned it, Red Sonja, Vampirella, Deja Thoris, who was part of Warlord of Mars. Dynamite does a lot of great licensed property stuff, and they keep those characters to their genre. If you were around in the 90s, you remember all the cheesecake stuff. Vampirella was a cheesecake book, and Red Sonja was a cheesecake book, and that's fine for its own sort of cheesecake as a genre, and I accept that that's part of comics. But it devalued the coolness of Vampirella. Vampirella is a horror sci-fi comic first, and it just so happens that she's really sexy. Red Sonja is a head-lobbing barbarian. It just so happens that she's really sexy. And Dynamite kind of got back to that. And so I talk about all those books, and that's awesome. But one thing they also do is Project Superpowers is a book where they've taken all the public domain Golden Age characters. There are tons and tons of comics, tons and tons of superheroes that aren't owned by anyone anymore, either because those publishers are gone or because they've gone to public domain, which is a legal thing that I won't explain here. So Dynamite grabbed a bunch of those heroes, and they've been doing different books about them, like Black Terror and Project Superpowers and some cool stuff. So Red Sonja, The Superpowers, and Vampirella, Dark Powers has Red Sonja teaming up with some of those characters, Vampirella teaming up with some of those characters. So it gives you a great opportunity to, again, get turned on to new characters, new creators, new writers, new artists, new stuff. And so you could pick up the first issue. This is the second issue. If you don't know much about Red Sonja, you'll get to know the character. Don't know much about Project Superpowers or Golden Age characters, you'll get to know the characters. And it's fun. And if you like the characters, you'll keep reading. If you love Conan, you'll love Red Sonja. If you like the Justice League, if you like Justice Society, you'll like Project Superpowers. And so anyway, it's a great opportunity to pick up one comic and see a lot of what Dynamite does in just one issue.
Sacred
That's
Six
a cool
is another
cover, too.
example of that too. Sacred
Yes.
Six has a bunch of different characters from their universe together. So, and I'm pretty sure we've got #1s on the website as well.
Deja Thoris is out this week. Vampirella was out this week. So, and like Lock and Key, they do other stuff besides the licensed property stuff. But again, that's sort of an easy access point for you or for a friend or whatever have you. And it's good stuff.
It's great stuff.
Fun things. And then, of course, I wanted to get back to get off that topic, to get back to a little superheroes, just a little bit of Marvel and DC here at the end of the show. This weekend, it's obviously Valentine's Day. So pick yourself up some Love is a Battlefield. I love these DC holiday specials for 1,000 reasons. It's a little bit of everything I've been talking about. Different characters, different writers, different artists, especially because DC is in a transitional period right now. So they have a lot of new writers, a lot of new artists going on over there. And so you're have a great opportunity to get in on the beginning of somebody's stellar career. Also, there's like 5 stories in here. I wrote the review in the newsletter. There's things you'd expect, like Batman and Catwoman, like Harley and Ivy, who are right there on the cover. But there's things you wouldn't expect, like Sergeant Rock. Have you ever read a Sergeant Rock romance story? No. But you will if you pick up Love is a Battlefield. Yes, it's like $10, but it's cool cardstock cover, lots of stories, no ads. And as I said at the top to my man Daniel, ain't nothing wrong with romance comics. We wouldn't have Lois Lane if it weren't for romance. So this is like all the holiday ones. I think we have this one. We have probably last year's Valentine's Day up there. We have the Halloween one. Like I say, I love those DC anthologies. They're just one shots and fun stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Should we talk about what's going on for next weekend's sale?
Sure.
So this weekend again, let's see, Image, Dark Horse, Dynamite, IDW, Aftershock, and AWA. 25% off automatically on our online store. Next week, it's everybody but those and DC Marvel. So it's going to be Archie Comics. It's going to be Boom Studios, Arcada,
Titan, Valiant,
Vault.
Vault is another new cool publisher. Scout is another cool publisher. Valiant has a ton of great stuff.
Zenoscope, basically everybody else will be 25% off next weekend. And then again, the last weekend of February, it'll be everything DC. And that includes, toys, action figures, t-shirts, slippers, mugs, everything DC is 25% off that last weekend of February. So make sure you check that out on our online store.
Tons of fun and great material out there. Next week's show will go on as we did with all these books. I can go just as deep with Valiant. Love me a ton of Valiant, old Valiant, new Valiant. Boom Studios has a ton of great stuff. Creator-owned, licensed property stuff.
Jim Henson stuff.
On and on.
Yes,
so
please.
Next week's show will be a whole lot of fun.
Yes.
So as we begin to wrap it up, last chance for any Q&A. Like I say, we want to know your favorite independent stuff, your favorite indie titles, indie publishers. Want to know what you're reading, what you're looking forward to reading. Questions, comments, concerns. Every Wednesday. So sign up for the Black Hat Comics newsletter. Every Wednesday, you'll get the newsletter. It tells you what's going on here in the store. We've got news and reviews, the list of what's coming out that week, all kinds of fun info. Check out the Wednesday video. Every Wednesday, I put up a live video of what's out that week. And then go to black-cat-comics.com, and you can shop there. You can check the calendar of events, all kinds of great fun-formational things there. You can find us on Facebook, find us on YouTube, here having a good time in rockin' Milpitas. So I guess that about wraps us up. Thanks for watching another episode of Comic Shop Talk Live. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Happy Valentine's Day.